we're live again. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our latest podcast. The first thing that I'm going to do before we actually get into the meat and bones of where the ancient things roam, or in other words, where the wild things are, paranormal version, is we're going to announce today that we're doing some changes, and we're going to be doing a few things for the Patreon page. The first thing is that Joel has volunteered to make bracelets. And though we don't have an example of it on the Patreon page, we'll be able to put one up eventually so that you can take a look at it. And I also have to apologize because if you can hear a fan that's blowing on me, that's the turbo fan, because I cannot do one more of these podcasts closed in my room away from the swamp cooler without at least a little something to keep me cool, or else I'm going to keel over before we hit the 1 hour mark because it's really hot out here in Lancaster. And also the changes that we're going to be making to the channel are that we are going to have two channels. One where we're going to put the archived information, all of the older videos, so that you can go and look at them. And those are going to be for the people who want to go back through our history without having to file through endless files of videos on this one page. And that will allow you to be able to take a look at what you want to look over and ask questions about it. And we're also going to be putting up some new types of videos where we actually show you the things that we've been talking about. No, we are not going to go out and show you people's personal business as we are cleansing their homes or dealing with things that are dangerous. The thrill seeking, we cannot help you avoid. You're going to have to grow out of that desire for yourself, whether by burning your hands or by learning firsthand what happens, or just however the process naturally evolves inside of you, that you realize that thrill seeking is not always what it's cracked up to be. And we're going to show you things like healings. We're going to show you haunted locations that are not very dangerous, or places that Joel and I can go to together and try and get things on film, camera, etc. Because I'm pretty good at catching ghosts. I'm pretty good at it. Not perfect, but I've got some pictures that really stun people. Everybody's always shocked at looking at. And I'm pretty sure that the family photos of my family that have the elementals crowding into the picture because they want to be a part of it is probably pretty shocking to the uninitiated. But there's many more that we want to get out there. And so we're going to be doing more films of that type. Probably get my second Reiki initiation on the on film, if that's at all possible sometime. And you got any input, Joel, real quick, since I know you're putting my grocery.
I think we can definitely get your second and third attunement on tape somehow. That'll be easy enough to do. We just have to set up a camera. No, I think you hit all those points. Also, I do key fobs, and I can do charms. Like, I can make and
we'll work some kind of protective stone in there, right?
Yeah. No, I could definitely do just about anything.
Okay, but once again, these are not going to be get out of jail free cards where you're going to go, oh, I got this keychain from Joel with this rock on it. I'm going to go into the middle of the worst paranormal zone in my area and throw it at the monster and go running screaming like a child. Okay, it's not going to happen. Okay,
no Ace Ventura with the
guano
necklace thing. Yeah.
The guano.
Yeah, none of that kind of stuff. But I think some of it will be useful.
And so that's what we're planning on doing. And now Aisha asked me a question. She asked me the question about things, ancient things, where they roam. Because was it Hellfreezer? Was it Hellfreezer's video, Aisha? You could unmute yourself.
Yes. I think it was him. You talking about that bridge or whatever, or that guy whose mother had it in the house and he saw it all his life when he was okay.
Yeah, that's the one. Now that one is very interesting of a story because it sounds like it's either a hearth spirit or it's something a bit more ancient that's tied to the land, similar to Truthwalker. And because it is tied to the land, it doesn't leave. And these are ancient spirits. And the ancient spirits don't do anything negative. In fact, in this story, it was really, really interesting because the boy actually would see him. He would try to cheer him up. He would appear as a clown. For crying out loud, he actually appeared to this other guy as John Pertwee as the doctor, with the magician's outfit and monsters on hand, etc., to try and scare the gentleman off because he thought he might be there to menace his friend's mother. He didn't recognize him. And this got us into talking about creatures that protect the land. And then we got into talking about Goatman's Bridge in Texas. Now, for those of you who may remember the episode, it's either was called Route 666 through the United States, which was a 2 or 3 hour event that the Ghost Adventures crew did last Halloween. They cut it up into several episodes, including Goatman's Bridge. And this is where one of the crew's wives said, yeah, I'm not working for this show no more. Take this job and shove it. And she left because whatever it was had freaked her out so bad that she just didn't want to be a part of it. Now, Joel and I watched this, and I think he watched it many months after I did, and it was very blatantly apparent to both of us that the ghost of the persons who had died there didn't hang around. But what they did do, the Ku Klux Klan, had literally pissed off every natural thing that was a friend of this guy on that land. Just as Aisha's family is very spiritual, some people's families are very, very spiritual and can tie themselves to the land and the spirits of the land. And they don't forget. And they hold a grudge forever. So anybody who goes onto that land daring something to happen, well, crap, folks, it happens. It does happens. And let me tell you, nobody on this show right now is surprised at that reality that, manure slapped the fins. So, and Joel and I laughed because the creature that was in charge of the entire thing, the Goatman, which is essentially a satyr, actually peeked out from under a leaf while the boys were walking by, and they caught that on camera.
Yeah.
And so all hell broke loose after that. Oh my. This thing, and it's not like it was even trying to kill them. It just was trying to menace them. It did everything you could imagine naturally possible, short of killing them, to try and get them to turn around. Even got their stupid asses lost repeatedly so that it would have more time to menace their asses. Dropped bugs on them. And we're not talking the kind of bugs that don't hurt when they bite you. We're talking the kind that can actually give you a hell of a good venom. These guys were stung all over, scratched up, effed up. By the time they left that bridge, they didn't even want to talk about, left the other side of the bridge. They didn't even want to talk about what had happened to them. And they didn't even want to talk to what had happened to what was it, Billy's wife? I think it was Billy Tolley's wife. Or was it Jay's? Whichever. Did not want to mention what happened to her. There was an attachment, and she left our show. I'm thinking, yeah, it's never quite that simple. She probably had a lot of bad words for you guys because you said, hey, can we use you for this? And as soon as Zach Bagan starts looking at you like you're a red shirt, you need to pull out a taser and you need to hit him 5 times until he gets that look out of his eye. That's advice for you, Aaron, if you ever listen to one of my channels, okay? Seriously. Just tase him until that look goes out of his eyes.
It never does.
So this brought up the subject, and I'm sorry if I'm walking long distance through to get to the subject, about ancient creatures and the ancient things that live on the land. Because she then asked, well, should you ask for permission every so many miles, and how would you go about avoiding catching the worst of whatever it was that this thing would dish out? And, well, that's a really complex answer. But the simplest way to answer it is yes, you should be asking permission, or you should be able to put a sense of peace in your heart, as well as a request for permission to go into certain areas, especially off the beaten path or off these trails or through tunnels. Because I can tell you from experience that some mountains do not like having holes bored through them. And for people that are sensitive, they can't reach everybody, but they will reach me to go, you know what, wake up, you're not doing your job. You should be telling everybody that I'm alive and that they hurt me and that this hurts when you pass through, and they need to be, the old stories are dying away, and the earth is dead, and people are this is what they believe. The earth is dead, that there is nothing spiritual or paranormal in the universe, and yet the more that we study, the more that we find the reasons to believe that there are things like this in the universe, and how it is that they fit. And maybe in 300 or 400 years, they're going to come back to their previous positions and go, oops, we're sorry, to all the gifted folk who say, well, I see this, and then they go, well, here, I created a pill so that you can't see this. And I don't mean for people who actually have mental conditions that need medicating. I mean, they literally will medicate a person to shut up. That is our history. If they can't medicate them into shutting up, they will shut them off, or they will put them somewhere else, or they will close them away. And that's the horror of our history. If you're different, beware. If you're the same, you're safe. And so this entire episode is going to be dedicated to talking about where wild thing and ancient things roam, where you can find them, what you're going to experience, what you should do around them, and essentially safety mechanisms that you can put in place, and how not to be an enemy to every damn thing out there that thinks you're out there to get it, or to make it, to marginalize it, and it's tired of it. So sorry about the long-winded intro once again. So Aisha, I'm going to let you ask questions so that I can answer them, and then and Joel and I can answer them, and we can get where we're going for this. And Sonia, I'm sorry to make you feel left out, but if you have questions also, please, hon, don't wait. Just throw them out there, okay?
Okay. Are you ready for me to start asking now?
Oh, give me just a second. You there, Sonia? Or are you on the loo?
Yeah, I'm
okay,
here.
so if you have any questions, please just throw them out there, okay? So Aisha first.
Okay.
Well, basically, I wanted to know, the question that I actually sent to you over the internet when you were telling me that it's best for us to keep ourselves safe when we're traveling across the lands, that we ask for permission as we're passing through the lands, that it's okay for us to come through, ask for permissions from whatever spirits that may be there. I wanted to know exactly how often do we ask? Is it every 100 miles, every 50 miles, before we pass through a certain area? Do we pray or whatever? How do we ask for permission? Exactly what words do we say? Is there certain words we're supposed to say on the way passing through? And how often do we do it? How many miles do we do it before we go there?
Well, I'm going to answer the way that I learned, and this is not going to be the exact answer that you may want to know. But without knowing when I was treading on something's territory, I simply ran into things the hard way, and I would learn from discomfort, such as in the Angeles National Forest, there is, and I think I mentioned this on air, there's a tunnel that was dug through the mountain so that it would switch back and go to the other side, and you could simply pass through and come down the backside into the Antelope Valley area. And this area, this tunnel, whenever I would go through it, was like smashing into a wall. My head felt like it was squeezed, and the background count inside was absolutely ferocious. And it got to the point where each time I went through, it would hurt worse and worse and worse and worse. And I got to use this thing a lot because it's the easiest way to get from the Antelope Valley into the greater Los Angeles area quickly without taking the long way around that goes through the 5. So on the very last time through, it hit me so hard, I thought the top of my head was going to fly off. And I was frightened. I didn't even want to go through there again. I thought, okay, I'm just going to take the long way around. And then because I was told maybe I should ask, because I'm not used to going, oh, let me ask one of my helpers for advice, etc. Because I basically was been doing this on my own so often, I keep forgetting that they're there. It's sort of like you don't want to go and ask your family members for advice to bother them because they have other things they want to do. That's the best way I can describe it, so I apologize. And so what I did was I was told, well, maybe I should ask the earth elemental that follows me, who's a friend of mine, what I should do. And I asked him, is there a way that I can make it so that the shield, whatever it is that's going through that, it doesn't affect me anymore? And he specifically said no. And he said permission to go through. And I felt really stupid. I was like, yeah, why didn't I think of that myself? Okay, so I did. And I said, Spirit of as we're driving towards it, back the other way after leaving Pasadena, I said, Spirit of the mountain, with all due respect, may I have your permission to pass without harm? And this time, instead of crashing into what felt like, like I was doing 45 miles an hour into a giant vat of Jello, I hit the edge of the thing, and it felt like tissue paper. And instead, this time I was welcomed in, and I was so freaked out that I was going to be hurting. I was actually holding my breath and holding onto the steering wheel. So this is how I was introduced to waking up to the fact that as you're passing through these areas, that some of these things can be addressed in such a fashion that if you ask permission, you're safer off. Now, I hadn't ever thought about that with a tunnel, because my first thoughts when dealing with a man-made tunnel is that it's already going to be, the earth itself is not going to have an aura in there. This was the first time I'd actually seen one like that in a great many years. And it was the first time that one ever reached out and hit me. And it hit me hard. So I'm guessing that it was probably because it wanted to be noticed, and it wanted to be spoken to, and it wanted to be shown that its effects were being heard, so that I would tell people. That's my best guess right there. So I'm going to open it up to Joel, because now he's going to answer.
Okay, so part of my ritual before I start things, well, I guess it depends if you're just traveling through. If you're going through an area that is reported to have a lot of activity, when you go through, you should ask the ancestors of that area, the spirits of that area, if for safe passage or to help guide you through. If you ask your spirit guides, they can actually act as emissaries for you through certain areas. They won't be able to not. They won't be able to shield you totally, but at least if you have some sort of good connection with them, they will be able to tell you. You'll get a sense of, however they give you the information that you're entering an area where you probably want to ask permission for, they will let you know. But definitely, if you know that you're going through an area that is pretty active, you should already be thinking about doing your protection, asking for help, acknowledging the spirits in that area, the ancestors in that area, so you can go through. I kind of blindly steer away from certain areas. I don't know how I do it, but like I'll be going someplace and I'll get like that weird sensation, like good block, bad block, good block, crack house block, good block, fucking demon over there, don't go that way. I just kind of steer away from them, like without knowing. And then somebody would say, oh man, over here there was this and this happened. I'll be like, oh well, maybe that's how come my route always takes me around that area. I'm kind of weird in that aspect at times.
But for the people who can't feel anything, it's a matter of if you know the area, you throw out a blanket permission, right?
Yeah, and it's just for that area, and it doesn't have to be for like. you don't have to do it every 5 miles, because once you ask permission to be in that land, permission is granted, no matter where you are in that region. If you're going through a different group of people's land, then once you hit that border, you should be asking permission in that area. So that right there is being familiar where you're going.
And as Joel was saying, you may feel a change in the land. If you feel a change in the land, if you feel a change around you, ask, because that's what he's, how he goes by it. That's generally how I go by, of course, but sometimes I have to be woken up a bit more strenuously than he does because reasons. I apologize.
Did that help answer your question?
Pretty much. Yes.
All right, so now it's Sonia.
Oh, also, before I forget, also taking offerings, like herb bag with like sage and valerian root, maybe lavender, whatever represents you or represents that area's guardian spirit. Um, Leaving like spirit pouches and leaving offerings for that area spirit goes a long way. And once you start doing that, after a while, it'll recognize you, and you will always have free passage, but you still want to every now and then let it know that you still recognize that it is there.
Water is also good too. Pure mountain spring water. For those of you who can't make a sachet and carry it, use it as an offering to the land. It goes a long way as well.
So if we have bottles of when we were truck drivers on the road, my husband and I used to, those little bottles that people would drink as they're doing exercise or whatever. If we had mountain spring water and stuff, it's like like
you find a nice spot where there are flowers growing, and you pour a little on there and say, as an offering to the spirits of the land,
okay.
In order to ingratiate you and get free passage, etc. That also helps, because it's a little easier to carry water around, especially mountain spring water, than sometimes the sachets. It's just an alternative. It's one that actually in the books that I've read, that's what I'm supposed to do, and sometimes I just forget. So that's why I felt really stupid when Chunk said, well, why don't you just ask permission? It's like, God, I feel really stupid. The look on my face, according to my roommate, when he told me, was like cartoony, because I felt so extremely stupid, and it lasted for about 3 days. It's like, you know better, Sean. You really, you know better, and you're asking the silly questions. So.
And you just find a flower in the area, a tree in the area to dump it on, or
a patch of grass.
Dump it on the land.
Or a patch of grass or something like that. And the piece that you feel, if it gets disrupted as you're traveling, usually is an indicator that you've now moved into an area that is covered by something different. See, like for instance, our buddy Semigod, his spirit buddy that is protecting the land that he lives on right now won't be able to travel with him. And according to him, he says it's getting kind of noisy. And so I feel really bad, because that means he's probably feeling terrible. And I suddenly got visions of the end of Dances with Wolves, where Wind in His Hair is up on the mountain, shouting from the top of the mountain as they're leaving, saying, I will always be your friend. And it makes me sad, because these creatures, they don't like to be alone. They don't. They really don't like being alone. They don't want to be by themselves. They're there for a particular reason. And once they find a friend, they make them forever. And he can't leave that land. It's not possible for him to. And so it's just like the story with that one spirit in that one house that was there to entertain and protect the boy as his father was sinking into dementia. It's sad to me, because they really do want to be a part of our lives, and we're losing the will, the ability to see and be a part of their lives, and all they want to do is enrich our existence. Most of them do. So, Sonia, you had a question?
Well, Joel's already answered it. It was about offerings. That was all.
So no other questions?
Bam, happens again.
You're working too fast here, man.
Not at the moment, no.
So,
So,
just to elaborate on that, Sonia, the offering thing. So, like you want to have done some research in the area that you're going to be operating on. So, for any fledgling person that wants to get involved in paranormal stuff, especially around your house, find out what is reported to be in that area. Find out what the locals, what the indigenous people used to give for offerings for that person, or for that entity, for that energy field. Do that. Set up a spot. I wouldn't suggest in your house, but like someplace outside where we feel comfortable, we know it's not going to get disturbed. Set up an area where you can make an offering there all the time. That way that spirit knows where you're going to be at. And in that way it knows that that is there for them. They know when to come and look when you do place an offering there. But definitely do your research, because certain things, I'm sure Sean can attest, if you have a certain spirit form, certain gemstones, certain metals, certain woods will go, like that's what is representative of who they are and of their energy, and they have a better affinity with that. So if you give that offering, especially because it goes to show that it was thought out, that you're not doing it willy-nilly, it goes a long way. And the reason why these things, part of the issue is that since we don't have that spiritual portion, we're losing some of our oral history, some of our history with these entities. They're losing energy, they're losing power. They get their power and energy from our beliefs in them. And so that's why.
Oh, as well as our interaction with them, as well as our interaction with them too. It's not just belief. I mean, of course, belief is important if you're going to interact with them. That's the first step. But the fact is that your interaction with them it's implicit that you already believe in them. So the best example of that is if you watch Darby O'Gill and the Little People, or read the books where Darby made sure that everybody in the town would tip their hats to all of the swirls of dust that went by, and gave proper respect to the leprechauns. It's just an example. Sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it goes to the reason if you don't believe, you're not going to interact. But along with that is as you interact, and as you interact with them, as you got to have belief, you start interacting with them. The more interaction, the more energy you give them to them, the stronger they'll be around you, the stronger influence they'll have in your in that area, especially when you're involved. And that's going to go a long way with seeing things and be able to affect things. I really wish Lori was here for that, because that would go a long way with what she does.
Yeah, it was. I tried messaging her. I did. I swear. I even sent her the links. I asked her if she wanted to be. She said she wanted to be a part of the show, but considering the fact that her mother is usually having her be the pack mule to be able to help clean up the cabin, God only knows she might be lifting barrels of pine needles right now.
Probably. So I hope that helped a little bit more with your questions on the offering.
Aisha, you were going to say something?
Sorry, I couldn't find my pointer to my mouse so I can unmute myself here. But as we're traveling through different lands, I'm talking about, instead of just, I don't know if what you were telling us about the sage and the is stuff that you wanted us to put around our house or whatever. But as we're traveling through different lands, I know you say bring something to offer there. Or do you mean like maybe carry it in a sash on our neck as we all, that way we already have it on the way passing through, or make a couple of sacks through, knowing that we're going on a trip. Let's say I'm going on a trip to Florida and I know I'm passing through 3 or 4 different states before I get there, Mississippi, Alabama, or whatever. Do I bring like one sack of those things per state to drop maybe on the side of the road somewhere to give as an offering? Can y'all still hear me? God, I need to be off here.
Yeah, I can hear you. You would have to have so much to give an offering, because one area, one state, if you're going through one area, like you have to think about like where certain things were roaming through. You can have like 6 or 7 different spirit types in 3 square mile area. So what I'm talking with that is like if you're going on a hike, or if you're going walking through some place, then something like that will be more applicable. Asking permission as you're going through is more of if you're traveling like long distances. But definitely if you're going like on a hike, or like if you're going camping and you're going to be like through possibly like 2 or 3 areas that's going to have different deities. I use that. I really don't like to use that word, but I guess that's different different energy types, different spirit types. That's more applicable with the satchels and the sage. And I use sage as a general one because for some Native people, sage is used for cleansing and stuff, which is also a good offering, depending on what area. But no, the satchels is more for like smaller hiking on foot, horseback, something like that. Not for, hey, I'm going cross country. I'm going from Louisiana to Florida through 3 states. That's like hundreds of miles. There's no way you'll be able to make offerings the whole way through.
That's where the water thing comes in, where every time you have to stop and you're in a new area, you do your best to try and make friendly with as many of the local spirits as possible as you're traveling along. It makes it much simpler to be able to do that sort of thing. It's just one of the many ways that you can make good as you get across the land.
Yeah. I mean, if you have like a large, I used to carry a medicine pouch with like a bunch of herbs that I used to just offer up when I used to rollerblade through Idaho. And believe me, you can get from one part of Boise to another city just by rollerblading on this thing that they had called the green belt. And I would just every now and then pull over when it felt like something was different, put a little bit there, acknowledge the fact that thank you for safe passage in your area and your protection. Sprinkle a little bit and go. Especially if I was gonna sit for a long time periods. If I was gonna be there and I was gonna sit and be in the shade of a tree while I rested before I go on the next leg of my trip, then I would use the herbs as an offering to go through.
Okay, so as a truck driver, basically what I'm getting in my mind of how to do this, when I'm going across any bridge, in any area, ask before you go across a bridge. Whenever I stop at a truck stop or have to stop my vehicle on the side of the road, ask for permission wherever I stop, or if I'm laying there to go to sleep, and especially if I'm laying there to go to sleep, that's when I leave the offering there. Ask for permission whenever I stop.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out.
Roughly, but this is not an exact thing. It's not exact. Like I can't give you a formula for how to do this. What you're asking us to do is give you a formula, but what works for us is not going to work for you, because the way your ancestors, spirit guides, your energy interacts with the surrounding energies is different. And so that's why, like, when you go looking around for it, you get so many different answers. It's because we all work differently, so there's no
And
real
because I work on
answer.
things at an elemental level because of my tradition that I work with. That's the reason why the mountain was like going, hey, I want a little attention. That's the reason why that's what happened to me. Some things will want your attention more than others. It's the reason why you hear about some kids getting haunted when they go to a house and yet another family can move in and they never see a damn thing. Or children get the attention of nature spirits and they go outside and they play in nature and they're safe as hell, right? But you hear about another family going there and the kid disappears, and that's because the kid went and decided that it was a perfectly good thing to go and find the biggest tree in the middle of the forest to take lighter fluid and a match to, and things said, no, son, you're not coming back. It's all a matter of who you being you, the energy you work with, the history of your family, the tradition of the energies you work with, and what's going on. It's all being aware of it and knowing when to say to go, well, I feel different in this area, so I should ask for permission. Not every bridge is going to be a dangerous issue. Not every river is going to be looking to grab a hold of you. And the more gifted you are, the more you can feel. And the more that you get experience, the more you'll realize how you can actually modify your energy while you're going through those areas to be pleasant to what it is that's around. To take a more roundabout talk about this, okay, there's a river-ish thing near Joel's house. It's more of a water runoff than anything. And when the rains come down, this thing becomes a torment. It's absolutely incredible. But when Joel and I go out onto that bridge and we're looking down at the water, there's nothing but peace. And the energy that we feel is cool, inviting. Joel and I stepped out onto the bridge together and we're laughing and talking about things, and we're our energy modifies itself automatically to the environment, and we're both not only feeling the energy from the water and being there on the bridge, but also at the same time becoming one with it and giving energy back. This is the end result of making sure that you're a part of the environment as well, and becoming one with it instead of thinking you're the master of it. If that helps, I'm hoping that this kind of thing helps. But that's what Joel and I, we're the point where Joel and I are. And not always, of course, because like I said, then there's the mountain that's like trying to wake me up by smacking me every time I went through that tunnel. That also does occur too. It's not like it was trying to kill me. It just wanted me to ask permission. So Sonia, if you got any questions?
No, not at the moment.
We
We
what?
Working too
You've
fast.
clarified it a lot. I just don't have any questions at the moment.
Oh. Okay, so
basically, my questions were actually of the fact that my profession was being a truck driver. I'm trying to help, not only truck drivers, but there's a lot of people out there that I know that likes to travel with their family across the road. I think this segment, this actual show that you're doing here, will help a lot of people learn how to keep themselves safe as they're driving, because I know personally a truck driver on the side of the road, he was real tired. He put, even though I know for a fact that that was one of the most stupidest things that he can do, because you always have to pull off and when there's a section or something where you're getting off the road. I think he just pulled over on the side, and he wasn't off the road on the side. He just pulled over in the right-hand lane wherever there was an area, because he was real tired, and he lay there and went to sleep. And he disabled right now. It was an older guy who I knew who was driving over the road with us. He's disabled right now because as he slept, another truck came up behind him where some truck driver fell asleep and just slammed into his truck while he was sitting there. And I'm trying to figure out, would it have actually helped him a little bit more if he knew all these things and was able to maybe put an offering down or something before he actually lay there and go to sleep, if he actually had to pull over where it was he pulled over.
It might have. You got to remember though that some of these things, like the tunnel that I passed through, are trying to get attention, and they don't know that they're being terribly painful when they do it. So I would say that depending on the area, I'd have to go and look and see if there was something there that would have been beneficial to him had he left an offering for it. But it's entirely possible that he might not have gotten into the accident. It's because sometimes you hear about people saying, well, all of a sudden I had this sensation like a sixth sense suddenly telling me I needed to do this or that. That's sometimes the land or ancient spirits of the land or ancient guardians of that area that are going, they're literally going up to a mundane person, and with all of their energy, because it's particularly strong, they'll poke them until they go, hey, you're in a dangerous spot. Hey, listen, it's not safe here. Hey, please pay attention, please. Hey, there's people that have gotten into accidents here, and they'll feel it as a sort of a sixth sense or as a nagging doubt or a fear or and sometimes they'll be really frightened of the message because they'll think that it's something trying to say, I'm going to kill you or whatever. And it's oftentimes just something warning them going, hey, this isn't safe here. And that's what a lot of nature spirits will do. Guardian spirits will do. There's even road spirits that protect certain portions of roads. Although I haven't seen any on asphalt, they usually, most of the spirits that gather near to the sides of the roads won't step on asphalt. I have never seen any spirits actually walk on asphalt, and I don't know why. But for the most part, these things that are off the side of the road or around the roads will do their best to try and keep things from happening if they're beneficial. But they're not going to go, oh, well, this guy's an idiot, I'm just going to let him die, or I'm going to make things negatively occur. They can definitely be positive influences, but it's rare that they're negative influences.
When my husband and I drive, sometimes we would actually go on the road and stay on the road for 6 months, home and stay home for 6 months. That's what we would do, like work a half a year or whatever. When I was on the road, I wanted to know, was Jemima with me on the road, or did she stay at my house while I was gone?
She stayed at your home.
Do you know how?
Yeah, she stayed at your home. So, she's not like that hearth spirit in the story, because remember I told you your family, because of your ancestry, didn't know where they were going to end up. So whenever they had a home, she would be there as a part of it, but she would only move from one to the other. So sort of think about it as like Star Trek, when they would get beamed up from one location to the next. So essentially, when you found a new place that you called home, she was there. And when you left, she would still be there.
I did have people there, like, told you, all those kids who was with my brothers and sisters who actually moved into my house.
Right.
So there were people there.
So she was watching over them until you got back.
Until I got back.
That's her job.
Okay. Mm-hmm. The reason why I asked, because when you mentioned that sometimes you feel something going on inside your system, to help people who actually don't have clairvoyance, don't really have all these things, but yet these negative things are around us. I'm trying to help them be able to understand the feelings that they get, because we do get these feelings, and sometimes when I would actually stop on the side of the road, I would get like a funny feeling, like I'm kind of worried in that area, and that's the reason why I asked, was Jemima with me, for me to actually come out that area unscathed. But what I used to do when I would feel kind of funny stopping in the area that I had to stop in, or certain truck stops I had to stop in, and I felt funny in my system, I would burn frankincense and myrrh, and I did that just for the smell of it, and I was thinking that it was just helping me go to sleep. Do you think that frankincense and myrrh is the thing that helped me that I needed in that area? Was that like a good offering, like Joel was saying? Was that a good offering?
It's a type of an offering. It's very biblical and not very key to the land, but they probably would have seen it as such. Did you feel better after you burned it?
I was able to go to sleep, and whatever was making me feel worried of laying down in that area, it stopped. I was able to go to sleep.
Right. So more than likely, they
Yeah.
accepted it as the offering that you may have not realized you weren't intending it to be. But had you done sage or any of a number of other things, including sweet grasses, it would have been that they would have taken that as well, or water.
What it is when you're doing incense and stuff like that, that's kind of a burnt offering, no matter what you do. And they'll understand, like, it's what you have at the time that you use, and that's what pretty much is what I'm saying. If you carry around a satchel with sage, lavender, and stuff like that, and you was to burn it, that would be considered a burnt offering, and that's why you would have certain things on hand. And that's why doing a little bit of research, if you know you're going to be constantly in that area, that's why doing a little bit of research, especially if you're going to be operating that area constantly, you want to do it that way. You can have it at hand all the time.
Now, not to constantly go over the same thing. There are other things that you can do as offerings aside from water. There's also wine can also work, but you can also offer songs and sing. Singing is also an offering too, and you can also get a great effect out of that. Trust me, I've had to learn that reality that my voice has a very strong effect, especially when singing on things that are negative. They really don't like it. I don't know if you remember, but the thing that was hiding in that one mirror, and Aramid said, just sing, damn it. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And then it went running immediately. So those are also ways to give offerings. There's, you know what, we really should have written a list of all the different things that are potentially offerings.
Yeah, that's the reason why I don't mean to be a stickler about it and keep going back to the subject, but basically, I feel that this segment is a good segment that's going to help call it my people, because people who travel on the road, we travelers, not just us truck drivers. We have, people in cars, people with their family. It's like love out there on the road. We all traveling on the road. We getting to know each other. It doesn't matter who it is. The road travelers are my people. So basically, I'm trying to help them and take notes of what it is they need to do as they're traveling, so no more of our people are being hit on the side of the road or having accidents or whatever. So basically, as you traveling across bridges, before you go across the bridge, ask for permission in some way, form, or fashion. Just words out of your mouth, asking for permission.
Okay, so Aramid just reminded me of something which I should have remembered, because I've been talking about Darby. Okay. Wow, she's so insistent. The invoking the right of hospitality. Now, this is more in. Ow! Stop. Okay, this is more in Europe than here in the United States. But whenever you go to stop at some place, depending on what spirits are there, you can invoke the right of hospitality, and it's to a lesser degree here in the U.S. Geez, take it easy. The message is so big. You also You can actually you bring an offering of sometimes food, bread, water, that sort of thing, and invoke the right of hospitality. Say, I wish to stay here, and invoke the right of hospitality so that I sleep safely here. I give this gift of earth and water, and I mean no harm. Wow, she's just going on and on about all the stuff that the wee folk used to demand. That's not really going to work that much here. I'd have to save that for Ireland, dear. And in the United States, you can do the same kind of thing in a great many places, especially on the eastern seaboard. Stop talking so fast. Sorry. And my right ear is ringing because she's just talking so quickly. I think she must have taken lessons on how to talk at me from Maureen O'Hara, and she talks so fast it leaves me dizzy.
And what she told you to say, I invoke the right of what? A safe passage? Of
hospitality and safe passage, and I bring a gift and an offering of earth and water. Wow. So, and you can do that along the eastern seaboard, in many places in Canada, on certain roads, in houses and places where you're not familiar, especially in hotels, etc., which might be you might be dealing with ghosts and things that are negative. And some Oil. Bring oil. What oil? What kind of oil? Lavender oil. That's your favorite. Lavender oil.
Said lavender.
Okay.
Yes, it's lavender oil. Okay.
Oh,
That's a New World herb. You like that better than frankincense? Yeah, I've smelled frankincense. No, okay, we'll have a conversation later. Okay. Anyway, so
Also, don't forget, like, I don't
Go
know
ahead.
what the equivalent of a patron saint of travelers would be, but there's like the patron saint of travelers, and so there's like certain spirits and energy forms that look over travelers, and acknowledging them along the way with you could go a long way with helping you through your travels. And that's why certain Catholics like carry, like, the
I think it's
like,
St. Paul.
yeah. And so that's why those are made. And so, like, when you're traveling, you can carry those with you. And that's supposed to help you with your travels, to protect you.
and
no,
you
it's
say
St.
the
Christopher.
water we should.
Sorry, St. Christopher. That is this patron saint of travelers. Sorry, go ahead.
You say the water we should bring is mountain spring water.
Yeah, purified water sucks ass. They really don't like it because it's kind of dead. I don't like drinking it, but it's better than nothing, especially since mountain spring water is so expensive around here. If it's all you got, though,
Okay,
offer
so
it and say, and you usually say, sorry, it's all it is purified water, but I don't mean any insult or harm.
If you have,
okay.
if you live someplace that has like natural springs around, creeks or anything like that, and you can find you can get a vessel, collect it, and just use that for your travels as well.
Oh,
And
okay.
try to avoid using plastic to carry it for too far if you can avoid it. Metal usually works better. Plastic is not always the best thing to put in. Glass is better still, and use that as a small offering. Crystal is better if you can afford that. Yeah.
Okay.
But
yeah, when you finish, come back through it and take some notes and stuff so I can make sure I remember all these things, because I know I'm going to be traveling again. I want to be able to remember all these things to keep myself safe out there, and I'll put it under your video so other people be able to write down these notes and have them as they're traveling, going across the road and being able to protect themselves the best way they can, so we can have as less problems as we're going across the road as possible.
now, I don't want anybody to think that a lot of these creatures, these things, these metaphysical things are the danger. Sometimes the danger just comes from the way that we travel and the way that we drive, and they're trying to help us avoid these things. They don't always bring the problem. I just want to stress that very meticulously, because they don't always cause your issue. Sometimes the noisy thing on the roof is not the danger; it's the thing that is being chased. Sometimes the danger is the thing that came from across the road, not the spirit that's living in your house. Sometimes, so it's not always as you're traveling that you're gaining danger from these things. They're just trying to sometimes save you from yourself, which is why you need to listen to your sixth sense talking to you. In fact, rarely is it these things, because most of these things have existed since before man lived, before man walked this earth. They've been there. In fact, if you read the Bible, they talk about that, and King Solomon mentions it over and over again. And the ones that had become unruly and angry and hateful of man, he was the one who helped to seal them away. That was what he did specifically with his seal. So it's not everything that's on this planet is dangerous to us, and a great many of these things are here to protect us, and all they want to do is be our shepherds and protectors again. And so if you treat them respectfully, they will help protect you. If you don't treat them respectfully, they'll leave you alone, sometimes to your own detriment. Sometimes you will not be warned of you're about to fall off the side of the road, or you're going to drive in the wrong direction, or they won't poke you awake while you're driving sleepy, etc. That kind of thing. They're there to help keep you awake. And sometimes they get really, really angry at folks because people that were attached to the land were driven off. And as in the case of Goatman's Bridge, they don't ever want you to come over and bother them again because they don't like you anymore. And it doesn't make a difference who you are or what you ask. They just don't want you there. And they can level the boom on you something hard. And sometimes the only way to get away from their negative effects is to leave an offering and say, I'm sorry. And there's nothing wrong with saying you're sorry, ever. So, Sonia, you got anything you wanted to ask?
Well, I was going to say, it's very similar to a book I've just I read lately called Shadow Magic by John Lanahan. And they do a lot of things like where they have to thank the trees, because in that all the trees are living, like they have their own little personality.
Yeah.
And you have to ask the permission to, like, oh, can I take an apple? Can I take some firewood? And they'll actually dry like bits of woods and it'll fall and give you it. It's sort of that sort of thing, isn't it?
It is. In fact, when I was a kid, and you have to keep this in mind. Now, this is not saying Sean's telling you be afraid, be very afraid. No, listen and keep this in context. When Sean was 7 years old, Sean had just been traumatized by that bog thing that nearly killed him, and was now seeing strangely and beginning to have to wear glasses to see around his cataracts that were forming. And I was in the hills of Tehachapi, which is the place I keep telling everybody you can go. Go to Tehachapi. It's a great environment. But Sean at that time was afraid of everything. And I'm being told to go and explore nature. And I'm frightened of all the things I can feel there, because I can feel the aura of every living thing and something bigger that is deep underneath all of it. Something huge that always felt like it was following me. And I'm walking down this slope, and I go down to the edge of this road that leads up to a dirt cliff face, and all of a sudden I had this feeling like something was staring at the back of my head and at my back intensely, wondering why I was going this way. And I later would find out that that area was actually mudslides during the previous rainstorm, so it was kind of dangerous for me to go there. And I thought, okay, I haven't been able to get it in my sight, so if I turn around really quick, I'll be able to catch a glimpse of it, and it won't have a chance to run away. So I did a mental count: 1, 2, 3, turn, ha! And I turned around, and the tree had eyes, and it was looking at me, and it was shocked, and it closed its eyes and disappeared, and little Sean went, ah! And ran for his life. Was the thing dangerous? No. Let us take away from this that 7-year-old Sean
didn't know what the hell was going on.
Scared the ever-loving crap out of himself because the guardian spirit of the Nu'a people was actually interested in why somebody was on the mountain that had as strong of a gift as the people that lived there 800 years previous. So I was so effing scared. And now I never had a reason to be frightened. I should never have been frightened. And later on, when trying to find this thing again, I kept feeling it always receding and walking back so that it would never be caught in my view again, because I freaked out and it didn't want to freak me out. And I realized that from that point on. But I had to learn the hard way, and nearly fainted. Oh, I ran back to the house where in Tehachapi, and I ran through the door, and my mother said, "Did you give yourself a scare?" I'm like, I didn't have to give myself a scare. I got scared. I come by my frights validly, woman. And I tried to explain it to her, and she didn't want to hear it. So please, parents, when your kids tell you this kind of thing, it isn't because they've watched too much Marty Krofft, which is what my mother was trying to tell me. Oh, you just sound like you're talking about H.R. Pufnstuf. No, H.R. Pufnstuf does not look like this. H.R. Pufnstuf looked like a cartoon made out of felt. The thing had eyes. I swear to God, eyes. And when it closed, it was bark closing over. Still don't know how to exactly describe it. If somebody was to do it today with CGI, I'm pretty sure they could get pretty damn close. But, the kind of thing I saw, you'd need CGI in the 21st century to be able to pull that off. I even remember when its eyes flew open really wide because it was so shocked that I caught it and then closed down quickly. So this is the kind of thing that you have to accept when your children say it. There's something there. Please, please don't just poo-poo your child and say that they're out of their mind. It's even if there's a possibility that they just were, it was just imagination and they frightened themselves, which is very slight. It's interacting with your child. You can go and interact with your child. There's no law against it. So, and so I've learned from that sort of thing that you are respectful to the plants, the trees, the flowers, the animals. You give them an offering, like for in the case of like I'm growing an apple tree, I don't have to ask if I can have the apples. It just drops the apples on the ground for us, and we named it. We named it Doug. You know, and I thank the vines that give us the pumpkins and the cucumbers and the strawberries, and I go out there and I praise how wonderful it tastes, and I talk to my herbs. Yes, I talk to my herbs. Okay, it's complicated. They grow for me. So don't be jealous. I actually got so much dill. You'd be surprised that it's growing up like a weed everywhere, and it starts popping up all over the place because I talk to it. And the land gives back to you, and if you believe in it, it will give you back even more because you see the spirituality of the earth, the sky, the air, the road, the hearth, the home, the desert, the winds, the storm, the hurricane. It's all waiting for you to feel the spirituality involved in every last bit of it. Anybody got another question for us? So that Joel will stop laughing at me?
I just saw little Sean doing that. It was amazing.
I know you can see it because you can pull it right out of my head when it happened to me. The only thing you can't pull out of my head is the pain in my forehead from when I freaked out because my blood pressure shot up so high.
Sorry.
Yeah, you'll have to give me a minute. It just
Evidently, Sonia can see it too.
I even remember what I was wearing that day because I tore it in a couple of places and it got really dirty and it was so full of pine needles. My mom actually had to take some of our water, heat it up because there was no water up on the mountain. We had to bring it up with us and clean me off. I was a mess. Ran through pine trees. I ran through bushes. I actually had to run up the dirt mound that was right next to the house because the house had to be leveled off, and in order to be able to plant a thing there, basically they pulled dirt over, leveled it, shored it up, and they didn't put enough gravel to shore it up on the side, so it was constantly degrading. But I ran up that, it was shifting earth, and I just, like a cartoon, went right up the side. And we're talking, it's a fairly sheer angle, much worse than 45 degrees. And I just zoomed right up it. And my mom thought that I had scared myself. So, later on, I forgot. I stopped telling her about stuff like the things I'd see up there, big cats, deer, that sort of thing. So that sort of thing's not up here. So the week after we leave, my mom reads something in the newspaper about cougar being sighted in Bear Mountain. It's like, Ma. Yeah. Says, you saw that big cat? Say, yeah. Everything that came out of my mouth was BS until she decided it wasn't, apparently. Small wonder that you don't bring stuff to your parents when they don't believe you all the time.
Do you actually have on your journey, on your way, did you learn a tactic that you can actually tell kids on how to get your parents to believe you about the things that they see?
I've never found a way to get parents to believe until I show them that what the kids are seeing, and I tell them what I see before they have a chance to tell me, which we did for a couple of people several years ago, about 4 years ago. Parents are like, oh, well, I totally didn't believe my children. And then I'd ask them, well, what do you see over here? And then I tell them, because I see da 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 da, and I can feel something affecting you. And then you make the kids smile by telling them about how to deal with it. And then the parents usually start to believe a little bit more. But I've never found a patent-proof way to get them to believe. Because sharing what you see that the kids already see sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. It all depends on the parent. I don't know if that's any better of an indicator or any help at all, but I usually have learned that when parents are shut down from this sort of thing, not to count on them, which is a horrible thing to say, I know, but there are some parents that are so against actually expanding their horizons and listening that I don't know what to say. I really don't. I just feel bad.
Okay, I know there's going to be a lot of parents out there that's going to be pretty much standoffish at this, even when you're here now. What it is this is the reason why I say your show, you and what you and Joel do here. This is the reason why I say you guys are very valuable to what's going on. You're going to make big changes in the world right now, because even though there is no answer that you can give them to say how to get your parents to believe. If they do not have believing parents, what they can do is find a way to contact you and get you to talk to their parents. Say, look, I'm having problems with my parents, and I'm seeing things here. And before I even tell you what I'm seeing, I want to reach the phone to my mother so I can have my mother listen. Look, Mom, let this guy tell you what I see first, then I'll tell you what I see. That way, the child cannot hear you talking to on the phone. So as you both explaining the same thing, and then they can actually ask their parents, look, do me a favor. If I can prove it to you that I can see this, would you give me a little bit more, understanding here, and stop treating me like I'm ignorant, stop treating me like I'm just some child that's crazy. If I can prove to you what I see here, because you are my parent, you're supposed to protect me from everything, not just what you can see in the living, and the best way I can say, like, if I tell you, Mom, look, I need to lay in your bed tonight, ain't nobody else there but you, can I lay in your bed tonight? Or even if Dad is there, can I lay between you guys? Y'all have to put off whatever y'all doing, I could care less if I sleep on the floor. When I say I need to be in your room because something is happening to me in the other room, I don't want you to tell me that it was a scary movie that I saw before, prove it to you that this is happening. Like, call somebody who I know can see these things, and I can give the phone to you guys, and they can tell you what they see, and I can tell you what I see on a different level here, where basically I can't hear what he's saying, he can't hear what I'm saying, and protect me a little bit more, so for parents who will give in to their children, instead of saying, look, oh no, I don't want to hear that, because even tell them, look, I can give you proof, would you protect me a little bit more? Would you help me so I won't be going to bed frightened and scared and thinking I'm gonna wake up dead or whatever, if anything is going wrong with me? Would you believe me? For those type of parents who just need the proof, because that's a step above those who sit up here and say, I could care less what proof you have, I don't want to hear it. At least those kids will be able to make it. They may have, problems with them believing on their own, but by you guys being here, it's going to be so amazing for at least half the kids are going to get life to be able to get that step above and get some understanding between them and their parents, where they can have contact with you guys when they see whatever it is they see in the house, and say, okay, now I see it, I can call them at this time or text them, see if they're available, and they can text you, see if you guys are available, and then they could tell, their mom, look, here's the number the guy told me, next time I see it, and I text him. He told me he's available. Could you call him? And he can tell you what he sees. Then I can tell you what I see. Okay. Then I can tell you what I see. So that way we can stop playing this game, which you treat me like something is wrong with me. Because mainly these kids are going to be able to stop, because I'm pretty sure a lot of their parents put them in crazy houses thinking something is wrong with them. You know, they'll be able to.
Most of them don't. Sorry.
What usually happens with me. Why there's an echo? What's going on? Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay, thought I cut off.
We don't hear echoes out again.
What usually happens with me is I'm not usually in contact with kids and stuff like that. But what ends up happening is like I'll be at work and something will happen, and like a patient would say something to me, and then we'll start talking. Like it'll be weird. We'll just start talking about stuff, and like sometimes I'll be like, oh, you know, my kid, you know, I was and this happened with my kid, and or there's like, yeah, my kids saying things in the house, and I should give that parent like help that way. But usually people are brought to me when they're at that point where they usually have to figure out if they should be listening to their kids more about it, or if they're like not taking their kids seriously. I've actually had a few conversations about paranormal stuff with like co-workers and patients that seem to help them along the way.
Sonia, you were going to ask something? I saw you unmuted yourself.
What I was going to say is, with what Aisha was saying, even sometimes getting a parent to talk to somebody else who's gifted, they might just ignore that as well, because my dad's had that sort of experience happen to him plenty of times, where the parents go, no, don't believe you, you're just a mental man.
It is unfortunately that's the opposite side of the coin. There will be people who will be adamantly against listening, and we're here for those who are ready to listen. Unfortunately,
if they don't acknowledge that it's real, then it's not real. It's like Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy. Put a towel on your face, it can't see you because you can't see it.
But you got electronic there. He said, like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, if you put a towel on your face, you can't see it, it can't see you. Which is the old zenning your way through life by putting a paper bag on your head and dancing in traffic. Eventually, one of those cars is going to stick you. You just don't know which one it is because you can't see the cars. You know what? I really want to find that quote from that Shadowrun book about zenning your way through life with a paper bag over your head in traffic. That's one of my favorites.
Which do you remember? Was it one of the early books or later books?
It wasn't a novel. It was one of the handbooks, you know, that had gear and stuff. It was the comments at the bottom because people were hacking in onto the catalogs.
It's probably the Shadowtech book. I'll look at it.
God, I love that comment. The whole zenning your way through life thing. It's funny as hell. Yeah, you can ignore certain things to a certain point until eventually it's going to get you. And this isn't just about the paranormal. This is reality. If you ignore anything, whether it's, you know, I'm eating too much sugar, I'm too sedentary, I don't feel like paying the electrical bill, eventually as Baron Mordo said, the bill comes due. Nobody's going to escape that reality. The bill comes due for all of us one day. And the question is, are you going to be paying attention before that bill becomes a monster, or are you going to take care of it while it's still about the size of a Muppet? So I think we've kind of wound down on this subject. I really wish people were in the thing to ask questions. Would have been nice so that we could have even more input in this. But just the same, the whole point to this subject really is that there are things out there, and they're ancient, and they're not all your enemy. They really aren't. And there are a great many of them willing and able and ready to be your friend. And I'm saying this because I know from firsthand experience. My first major experiences with the paranormal were, on hindsight, when looking back, was one part terrifying, one part very hopeful, because I didn't know that something was there trying to protect me, and that's the reason why I lived. And everything after that was mostly positive, but I didn't know how to classify it because I didn't know at the time. And yet now I'll drive across deserts and sea and windstorms, these giant hulking creatures that walk in the storm themselves, or the dust devils that go across the Antelope Valley. If you look at the base, you can see the exultant elementals that lie within them, dancing and spinning in the storm, coming together, dancing together, enjoying their entire existence, how fleeting it is, and then winking out. There's a lot more beauty to be seen in the world if you have these gifts. And even if you don't, you can appreciate them by watching them from afar and not thinking, oh, that's a terrible thing, or it's a horrible thing, or look at that storm, or oh, this darn dust storm, or oh, geez, I'm scared to go into the forest, because there's so many things out there for you to discover. And a lot of these horror stories may have you frightened and avoiding them. And we're the kind of people who will tell you to steer clear of the negative metaphysical. So if you know that that prison, of course, is haunted, we tell you, idiot, don't go in there. There's plenty of things for you to find out there that are beneficial. There are silent movie theaters where you can go and sit with famous actors of the past and watch films and feel their energy around you. There are forests that are filled with nature spirits. There are, gosh, Joel and I are going to be going to a place that's absolutely wonderful in Lompoc, La Purísima, where the Ghost Adventures crew went to. One of the few places Zach didn't invoke his "look, mama, it's a demon" phrase, because there wasn't anything negative for him to point out and get jumpy from. So go in and enjoy the ancient spirits that are all around us, all of the ancient creatures that we have forgotten in our rush to wisdom, that you can find and invoke and have them become a part of your life. And once you acknowledge them, some of their energy will wash off on you, no matter where you go. So until next time, folks.